Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. We are doing another interview today with our very special guest, Sarah. So in a minute we are going to have her introduce herself and let's get right into it. So we are here with Sarah today. So Sarah, how about you tell us a bit about yourself and your story?
Sure. Hi, guys. So my name is Sarah. I was born in, grew up in Toronto. I have an eye condition called Leber's congenital amaurosis with the RPE65 mutation. So I've had this eye condition since birth and throughout all my life. I went to school for counseling, women's in counseling. And currently I'm not working in that exact field. I've done a lot of volunteering when it comes to youth, women, and things like that. I work as a early educational assistant. But since December 1st, things have kind of took a turn and I am currently home recovering from a car accident that I was in.
First of all, I'm also going to school for ECE, so that is so cool. That's something I didn't know about you. So cool that we're kind of in the same field. I know there's actually a few people who I know with visual impairments who are in that field, which I think is so great. Great field to be working in. We love the kiddos. So I'm so sorry to hear that you were in a car accident. That's incredibly unfortunate. But how did that kind of impact you? And were there any additional impacts that it had because of your disability?
Unfortunately, yes. So at first, there was really nothing on the day of, or in that moment, I guess. But unfortunately, I did develop a concussion, which resulted in drastic vision loss for me. I also tore my rotator cuff, and my whole left side of my body has just been kind of like out of sorts. So at this point I am recovering, getting better, and thankfully I don't have as many concussion symptoms, or they're not as frequent as they used to be. And I was really worried about my vision, and thankfully that has sort of gone. I've sort of regained a little bit more of my vision back ever since the accident, so which was really nice to know. And yeah, so right now it's just been focusing on recovering. I'm my dominant hand is my left hand, and it's my left side that's injured, so it's just affecting me in just doing daily activity things, I guess, or even just sitting for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, concussions and vision loss do not go together. I know for me, I'm already
No.
light sensitive, and I have a feeling that if I ever got a concussion, I know concussions cause light sensitivity, that I literally think I would just have a 24/7 like headache. Like I can't even imagine having those two things together.
Yeah, and with my eye condition and whatnot, like, always before I was always have the lights on so I can see clearly and stuff, but ever since the accident, I'm literally, it's the opposite, walking around and turning off all the lights.
Yeah, so either way, whether you're light sensitive or you need more light to see, it's not a good combination.
No, no.
Well, we send you our best wishes and hope you recover soon. Yeah. So we also hear that you are a co-host for a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got involved in that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was around this time last year. One of the other co-hosts on the podcast is called What's the Difference Podcast. And the co-host that on there actually recommended me to the host because she was moving out of town and she just didn't know how much time she would be able to dedicate to the podcast. And I knew that co-host through Fighting Blindness Canada. So the co-host, the host, Jackie Rosen, reached out to me and we had a phone conversation. And I came on as co-host. I still have not met her in person till this day because of the pandemic. So our friendship is totally over like virtual, but we've got along great. And yeah, I'm really excited to work with them. And there's been quite a lot of changes even just happening with our podcast when it came to season 2. But it's been really nice working, interviewing people, and hearing other people's stories, and just, yeah.
It's so funny how there's so many people I know now who I've never met in person, but I feel so connected to them.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the kind of topics that your podcast touches on?
Sure. So I'll say for season 2, since that's like the most recent one right now, the latest one is where I it was the roles were reversed, and I interviewed Jackie because Jackie just became a mom, and she has a congenital heart defect or disease. I'm probably butchering this so bad. But yeah, she became a mom, and so she shared her story, because on the podcast she also shared just her getting pregnant and things like that. And then we did an episode on Black Disabled Lives Matter, where we interviewed a neutral friend of mine who is Black and has some mental health, has a disability, and is a single mom. So those are just the two, to name a few, but we talk about anything and everything. A lot of people with invisible disabilities. We'll be doing a video on body shaming, fashion. So yeah.
Awesome. All fabulous topics. And for those who are not aware, we also just featured Jackie on our Instagram page. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. And we will link the What's the Difference podcast down below.
So as you previously mentioned, you are a co-chair of Fighting Blindness Canada, which is so cool. How about you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So I've been involved with Fighting Blindness Canada for a number of years. As a participant, I attended their Young Leader Summits. I also volunteered with them for Vision Quest and things like that. And in 2018, for the 2019 summit, I got asked to be part of their co-chairs. So I agreed. And then since it was a pandemic, our co-chairs got to stay on for another year. It's been absolutely wonderful working with the team of co-chairs that I am working with. It's been quite interesting, as we normally have in-person summits, and we literally had to put a whole summit into a virtual platform. So that was really fun and exciting at the same time, really different. We really enjoy the in-person summits, because you get to meet everybody, meet new people, and just socialize and all of that. But we made it work virtually, and we'll be doing the same thing this year virtually as well.
Yes, and let me just say, you guys did such a good job. So Hannah and I went to the Young Leader Summit in person in Toronto in 2019, the fall of 2019. So we did actually get to go and experience that, and it was so great meeting the people there that we did go to the virtual summit in the fall of 2020. And I hear there's also one coming up at the end of April, which is so exciting.
The last weekend of April,
well.
Yep.
We'll definitely be there. And I know I did some Cycle for Sight stuff, so we're also pretty involved in that. Great organization. I guess for anybody who is also looking to potentially get involved in the virtual Young Leaders Summit, we can also link that down below if you want to participate. It's a great organization. So I know you're also a large mental health advocate, especially for those with disabilities. Do you think that there is a relationship between mental health and disability, and that there are additional impacts on those with mental illness and disability?
Yes, there is. Unfortunately, what I am seeing a lot, and it's becoming more and more clear to me, especially in organizations for the low vision and blind community, we deal with the disability itself, but never the mental health side of things, which saddens me. But at the same time, we continue to do the work as much as I can, to bring the awareness and educate people when it comes to mental health, and creating more shared spaces for people to come out and share and speak and provide resources for those individuals. Because a lot of times we focus so much on the disability and tools and navigating and how you can adapt all of these things when it comes to your life, but no one really checks in on the emotional side of things, how it affects you, how is you losing your vision, whether it be later on in life or growing up as a child, how it's affecting you emotionally, what struggles are you having emotionally, internally.
Absolutely. And I especially think like in terms of like all three of us, like something like vision loss, like nobody talks about how like isolating that can be, and like the fact that it is actually a loss of something and something that you can be grieving. And I think those emotions are huge, and I know they're starting to be talked about more, which is great, and more kind of supports are being put together around that.
For sure. And like especially when you meet other people in the low vision and blind community, they have like the same type of eye condition from you feel so like, I don't know, rejuvenated or like energized, like,
Absolutely.
oh my god, this person knows what I'm going through.
That's exactly.
And not everybody has that experience, right? Unfortunately, but
absolutely, that's exactly literally one of the reasons that we created True Faces, is like we need to create a community of people who know what we're going through, and that's absolutely it, and something that's so important in our community to have those other people as supports. I don't know, Sarah, if you kind of experienced the same thing. We've kind of talked about it in other videos, but visual anxiety is a real thing. Getting anxious over things that you can't see. I know for me, it's a huge thing.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, I recently just will be putting out a video on just navigating social settings as a person who is blind, and how I had to learn to adapt and come up with ways to help with my anxiety and my social fears, on how to navigate different types of social settings. And sometimes you, even though you prepare yourself, it doesn't always happen what you expect. So how are you going to adapt in that situation, in that environment, right?
Absolutely, and I love that it's being talked about more. What are some of the ways that we can combat mental health and disability, or are there different supports and organizations that are, I guess, like doing things about it?
So I know CNIB is running now, and Canadian Council for the Blind are running a lot of younger adult or younger groups, and primarily they are individualized in terms of like, or segregated when it comes to men and women. So there is that shared space for like girls that want to talk about girly things, or just want some tips on dating, or if they're going on a first date and things like that. And then I think balance for blind adults also has a counselor on their team, or have a connection. So if anyone that wants counseling or things like that, they can definitely reach out to them. I know sometimes it's what I've also noticed, it's very hard to find someone that can understand your disability and the other aspects, or like the social or the visual anxiety you are facing. I was very fortunate enough in my case, because I go to the hospital for sick children till this day, and I got in touch. I wasn't, because of other things growing up, I got I was put in touch with a social worker there. So I think if anybody that has an ophthalmologist or wherever, I'm pretty sure on their team they have a social worker that works on their team. Don't be scared. It's okay to reach out and have someone that can empathize with you, that can understand you, and that could give you even more better resources in your own community.
Absolutely. Definitely having those external supports. I also think it's incredibly important to have like techniques that work for yourself. So like I know for myself, I have a bunch of different breathing techniques and meditations that I can do either before a stressful situation or after a stressful situation, or even when I'm in a stressful situation, like just having some way like to learn and gain these techniques that work for yourself along the way are incredibly important as well.
For sure, yeah. Self like grounding is like really important. And if you know ahead of time what is going to be making you anxious, kind of thinking about it, kind of talking about it, whether it's a friend or, doing, like you said, like meditation or breathing exercises, or just visualizing in your head what it's gonna look like, can also kind of bring that anxiety down. Like, for example, like I'm kind of scared to like sit in long car rides right now because of my accident. So I kind of like, for me, what I do is like, okay, you're gonna be going in a car today. It's gonna be this song. What are the things I can do to make this car ride at this point just bearable and just make it through? So am I gonna be on the phone with somebody, or my parents just gonna talk to me nonstop so they keep me distracted so I don't, think about the other emotions or things that's currently happening? I mean, it's not like you don't acknowledge those, but it's sometimes, you have to, when you're put into certain situations, you have to be able to go with the flow. And so you have to find out what works for you, and what coping mechanisms work for you, whether it's be journals. Like some people love journaling, right? So maybe on the go audio writing, whatever, like they will just write it all down. But also I follow Katie Morton. She's a YouTuber. She is a therapist. And I would suggest, like, if anyone just wants to, or curious, like, just search her name into YouTube. You'll find so many great resources and about anything and everything.
That's awesome. And also just like understanding that like whatever feelings you have, like being scared to sit in a car for a long time, like that those feelings are valid. Like it's totally okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
I know you just briefly mentioned visualization, and this is something that somebody actually just recently introduced me to. And I'm just curious, have you tried visualization, or is that something that like you do a lot?
I don't do it often. It personally hasn't worked for me, but it has worked for a lot of my clients and a lot of people that I have worked with. So I know it's sometimes hard, especially someone who is blind or low vision, to visualize in your head. So I would give an example of, think of a square in your head. And think of it, okay, where's the top of the square, okay, and then slowly make your way down to the bottom of the next corner, in a straight line, and then go across. So visual in your head that the shape of the square, or it could be a circle. That's just a very simple way. Or a lot of times people just visualize like a very nice relaxing spot for them. It could be the beach or trees or nature, but it's really, you really have to, and it can be frustrating because it can't always happen, and that's okay. But it's getting your mind to that place. Or another way of doing it, because we as low vision and blind individuals, we use touch a lot. So have something in your hand that you can touch and focus on that. Focus on the texture, focus on how it feels. If you can smell it, focus on the smell, how big it is, how round it is, how wide it is. So and that can really, and I actually used to do that. I used to have a slinky, and sometimes I think it was like, sometimes people have silly putties, but having something in my hand made me focus on the object that's in my hand when I've been in very, very anxious situations, or just, when you have an interview, you're anxious. So there's something you can have in your hand and nobody even needs to know what you're doing.
Exactly. I've been known to play with my nails. Just like fidget with my own fingers. Literally originally somebody brought up the idea of visualization to me, and I was like, I'm visually impaired. Like how's that gonna work? I don't form defined images in my head. And definitely working with them to incorporate the smells, the feels, the different tastes of like an experience, and just tapping into kind of all your senses was something really cool. And it's not something that I do all the time, because again, like you said, sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay. But definitely, like, it was a really cool thing to try.
it's a habit, and it's something that you have to practice. And so when you are in that situation, or feeling a certain way, you can, it's your go-to. It's like using the things from, like, all the counselors says, your toolbox, right? So you have all these tools. Which tool are you going to be using? But you need to practice doing it, so when you actually are feeling really anxious or really stressed, or whatever it might be, that you can automatically sort of just grab it and do what you need to do.
So, Sarah, do you have any advice that you would give to anybody who's maybe in a rough spot or is in like a bad situation? Any just advice that you would give?
Oh geez, I know this is easier said than done, but be strong. There are days, I will say personally, in the last 4 months, there are days where I have felt very, very low. But if you have a good support system around you, reach out to them, connect with them, ask them to step in, whether it be for them to check in on you on a daily basis or you calling them. But it will pass. Life will always throw us curveballs. It's just the way how we deal with them. There's always a test. I look at it in life, and we can never get too comfortable with our lives, because then it'll be boring. So there's always have to be one challenge or another. So when you're finished with one challenge, you move on to the next one, and not all of them are going to be the same. But you can get through it. That's what it's hard. There are days when you're going to feel really crappy, but remember that, you know what, like, you can feel that way for the day or for the hour or for the moment, and the next morning or next day you can wake up and it's going to be a new day, so you can make new choices, better choices. And there are so many places where now there is help and resources available if that's what you need.
That's awesome. And I like what you said about we can't get too comfortable with our lives. And I like the quote, growth doesn't happen inside the comfort zone. And I think it's absolutely true. We gotta be strong, step out of our comfort zones, be positive along the way, all of those things, and have that kind of support system in order to just get through life, honestly.
Yep.
It's not always going to be easy, but I believe in all of us. We can do it.
Yeah, and especially if you have a disability, we have to work twice as hard as able-bodied people. And Absolutely. It sucks. But
it sucks, but it's true. But know that you are that much stronger because of it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, Sarah. I can hear the passion in your voice about these topics, and it was so nice to hear somebody else's perspective on these topics and just have this great conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It was lovely talking to you guys and sharing with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time, whenever that is.
Bye.